Okay, so now I'm going to paint my background. I need to mix up my colors. I want a neutral background, and I'm going to go with like a very dark yellow, almost like a brown color. And I have to make sure that I mix up enough paint to really fill that background. So I'm going to take all of this yellow, and you can do this on a magazine as well because you're going to be mixing a large amount and you may not have room on your palette. I'm going to put a little more yellow in there. Make sure I have plenty enough. Now I don't have any purple. I would mix purple, the complement of this, to really subdue this color, but I don't have purple, so I'm going to use a mixture of red and blue, ultramarine blue. You can see I used a little too much blue. It's turning greenish. Green might be kind of cool. I kind of like that color too, but I've already got a plan to go with something that's more brownish, more like a warm gray. So the red will counteract the green, obviously, because they're complements, they're opposites on the color wheel. I still want to go darker. Add some more red. Also do more red. Let's add a touch more blue. The blue is so strong, quickly overpowers, so you got to be careful. Alright, I can tell that I still want to go darker yet for my darkest, and what I'm mixing up is I haven't added any white to this yet. This is going to be the darkest version of that color. I hope I'm going to have enough here. Okay, still a little olive looking in color. Let's add some more red. It's a lot of red. It's okay, more paint I have, the better. Try not to spread out your paint too much, because if you spread it thin, you won't be able to apply it thickly. You want to apply it thickly so that it doesn't dry out on you. Touch more blue. Not much yellowness left in this, is there? It's like a super dark, burnt that's pretty close. Maybe a touch more blue. Okay. You pull a little bit of this off to the side and add a touch of white to it. Sometimes when you lighten it up you can see the color a little bit better. Not quite exactly where I want it. Touch more blue. Which may make it a little greenish. Sometimes it's helpful to test it out. That looks good, I think. Again, test a little bit. Yeah, I like that, I guess. Okay, so that's my background color. The last thing I want to add is some retarding medium. That's just going to help to keep the paint moisture longer, keep it from drying out on me. Extends it a little bit, makes it a little bit, gives me a little bit more paint too. Okay. So now I'm ready to paint. Now I have to be ready with the white. What we're going to do is we're going to go from dark at the top, lighter at the bottom. We're going to be simulating this where it's darker back here and we're going to get lighter. So you also want to have this nearby to use as a reference. So I'm going to start real dark at the top. Spreading on my paint, trying to, whoop, and I'm painting around. I painted over the top. You're going to be painting around your shapes, but it's okay if you paint over the edges a little bit. You can redraw them later. You want to overlap them a little bit. It's necessary to have the shapes in there so you know where it's going to be lighter. Alright, now I want to start to add some white in here. Start to go a little bit lighter. Oops, probably maybe a little bit too light. Working my way across. Working that up and in. Don't try to smooth everything out. You want it sort of textured. And it doesn't have to be perfect all the way down at first if you're playing it thick enough. You got to kind of work your way down. Don't work down on one side and then come over here. You got to work your way across so you maintain that even lighting all the way down. Go down a little bit. Okay, you can see it's a little darker in here. That's okay. I'm going to come in. Whoop, I got a little red mixed in there accidentally. Grab a little bit more white over here. It's okay to kind of don't worry about the shadows. You can see there's shadows, cast shadows. Those are going to be painted afterwards. And I'm not going to get this perfect with the first run. And it's okay if you have some streaks in there. In fact, those things are preferable for texture. Don't have to worry about mixing up your paints perfectly and smoothing it all the way through. Now I want to make sure that I've covered the edges of all my shapes because I don't want any background showing through. I don't want any ghost images over my shapes. Okay, now I'm going to go a little bit brighter over here. I might add a little more white, because this is where it's going to be the brightest. Blend that in, kind of fade that as I come across over here. There's going to be a little brightness coming through, kind of reflects off of here. So maybe I'll add a touch, oops, see if I can get some in here as well, kind of coming through. And then maybe there'll be a little bright spot kind of reflecting off of this shape here as well, and I blend that in, blend that out, fade it out into the background. Now I'm going to come back in with some darker, maybe try to transition this maybe a little bit darker, transition this up here a little bit more, come back, this should still be wet. Oh, got like a bright spot there. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Again with some of the darker stuff. Hard to see. Okay, highlight in here, highlight sort of in here. Yeah. Got a little light coming through here. I might be able to do a little something with that maybe. A little bit in there. Coming through. Fade that. Don't, again, remember the shadows are gonna fill that in afterwards. Okay, so it's nice to have the swirls in there. Don't try to like go and smooth it out, blend it all out. Give it that, allow it to have that painterly look, kind of smoky and misty or foggy or whatever, gradually kind of fading out up there. And don't worry if you mess it up. You know, it's not, doesn't sound, but maybe this was a practice. Maybe you completely do it again. Maybe you don't like that color. And that's how you paint your background.